Have you ever had a part of yourself that you felt you needed to hide? Maybe it's something you want or feel, something about your body or your sexuality. Or maybe it's a part of your story that you've decided other people simply shouldn't know. And underneath that hiding, there may be a belief that sounds something like, if people really knew this about me, they might see me differently. Or even, if they really knew me, they may not accept me. That's shame. And shame can have a powerful impact on how we see ourselves, how we connect with others, and how much of ourselves we're really willing to bring into our relationships. So today, I want to talk about shame, where it comes from, why so many of us carry it, how it affects intimacy and relationships, and most importantly, how we can begin loosening its hold on our lives. Before we go any further, I think it's important to make a distinction between shame and guilt. Guilt usually says, I did something wrong. Shame says there's something wrong with me. That's an important difference because guilt can sometimes be helpful. If I hurt someone I care about, guilt might encourage me to take responsibility, apologize, repair the relationship, or make a different choice in the future. But shame goes deeper. Instead of questioning something we've done, we begin questioning who we are. I'm too much, or I'm not enough. I'm unattractive, weak, needy, or broken. My desires are wrong. I shouldn't feel this way or want this. And when those messages become deeply rooted, we may stop questioning whether they're actually true. We simply begin living as they are. Most of us weren't born feeling ashamed of ourselves. We learned shame, and sometimes those lessons were direct. Maybe someone told you, that's disgusting. Good people don't do that. Boys don't act like that. Girls shouldn't want that. Or maybe nobody actually said those words. Maybe you learn them through their expressions, their silence, their judgment, or their discomfort. Maybe you learned that certain emotions weren't welcome, certain questions shouldn't be asked, certain parts of your body should be hidden, certain desires should not be talked about. And sometimes those messages come from those people that are closest to us, our families, our communities, relationships, our religion, our culture, our peers, our previous partners, and increasingly social media and the images we're constantly shown of what our bodies, our relationships, and our sex lives are supposedly supposed to look like. Over time, we can internalize those messages. What began as someone else's belief can eventually become our own inner voice. There's another reason shame can feel so powerful. As human beings, we have a deep need for connection and belonging. So if we learn that showing a certain part of ourselves might threaten that belonging, we may begin to hide it. We learn, if I show this part of myself, I might be rejected. So we adapt. We become quieter. We become agreeable. We avoid asking for what we need. We disconnect from our desires and hide parts of our sexuality. We try to become the person we believe other people will accept. And sometimes we do that for so long that we lose touch with the person underneath all of that adapting. This is one of the reasons shame comes up so early in the embodied intimacy framework. Because it's very difficult to reconnect with yourself if you're still rejecting parts of yourself. Shame isn't just something we think. We can experience it in our own bodies. Think about what happens when you feel embarrassed or exposed. Maybe your face gets hot, your chest tightens, your stomach drops. You look away and make yourself smaller. You want to disappear. That's one reason the work we've already discussed in this series matters so much. Embodiment, understanding disconnection, nervous system regulation, emotional safety, attachment, and trauma. These aren't separate ideas. They're all connected. If your body has learned that being fully seen isn't safe, shame may become another way of protecting you. It can say, hide this, don't say that, don't ask for too much, don't let them see who you really are. And while those strategies may have once helped you feel safer, they can eventually make genuine intimacy very difficult because intimacy requires being known. Shame often shows up in relationships in ways we don't immediately recognize. Maybe your partner asks, what do you need? And you say, I'm fine. Maybe you want reassurance. Maybe you're afraid of seeming needy. Maybe you're hurt, but instead of saying that, you become defensive or angry. Maybe you struggle to receive affection because some part of you doesn't quite believe you deserve it. Maybe you avoid difficult conversations because you're afraid that acknowledging a mistake means admitting you're a bad partner. Or maybe you're afraid to tell someone what you really want because you're worried about what they will think of you. So instead of allowing others to be seen, or allowing others to see us. We protect ourselves, we withdraw, we perform, we people please, we become defensive. We try to become whatever we think the other person wants. And then we wonder why we don't feel truly connected. And of course, shame can have an enormous impact on our sexuality. Many of us received messages about sex long before we had the maturity to understand them. We heard sex is dirty, don't touch yourself, don't talk about sex, your body should look a certain way, you shouldn't want that, you should already know how to please someone, you should be more experienced, or maybe you should be less experienced. There are so many contradictory messages that make sex confusing. And those messages don't simply disappear when we become adults. We can carry them into the bedroom. We may struggle to communicate what feels good. We may judge our fantasies. We may compare our bodies to other people's. We may fake pleasure. We may agree to things we don't really want, or avoid asking for things we do want. We may even feel shame about how much or how little sexual desire we experience. And this is something I want to make very clear. Having a desire does not automatically mean you have to act on it, but being curious about that desire and understanding them without immediately judging yourself can be an important part of knowing who you are. There's a tremendous difference between saying, I'm curious about what I want this, and there's something wrong with me because I want this. Curiosity creates room for understanding. Shame shuts that room down. One of the most difficult things about shame is that it often convinces us that we are the only person who feels the way we do. Everyone else seems more confident, secure, comfortable with their body, more sexually fulfilled, more certain about what they want. Meanwhile, we're quietly wondering, why can't I be more like them? But the more I've done this work, the more I've realized how many people carry some version of that same question. We just don't talk about it, and that silence gives shame power. Because shame thrives in secrecy. When something remains hidden, we never get the opportunity to discover that perhaps we're not as different or unacceptable as we imagined. I also want to be careful about what I mean when I say removing shame. Accepting yourself doesn't mean believing that everything you do is okay. We can still have boundaries, we can still make ethical choices, we can still take responsibility when our behavior hurts someone, we can still examine whether our actions align with our values. This isn't about saying anything goes. It's about separating our behavior from our worth as a human being. We can say, I made a mistake without saying, I am a mistake. We can question a behavior without condemning the person, and that includes ourselves. So how do we begin changing our relationship with shame? One place to start is by becoming curious about the voice of shame. When you notice yourself thinking, I shouldn't feel this, I'm too much, I'm not attractive enough, my desire is weird, I shouldn't need this. Just pause. And instead of immediately believing that thought, ask, where did I learn this? Whose voice does that sound like? Is this actually what I believe? Or is this something I was taught to believe? And maybe the most important question, what might change if I stop judging this part of myself and become curious about it instead? You don't have to immediately love every part of yourself. Sometimes that's too big of a leap. But perhaps you can begin by becoming curious. And curiosity can be the beginning of compassion. One of the most powerful experiences we can have is being able to share something vulnerable with another person and discover that we are still accepted. That person might be a partner, a trusted friend, a therapist, a coach, or someone else who has earned the right to hear your story. When we reveal something we've been carrying with shame and we're met with compassion rather than judgment, something can begin to change. We start discovering, maybe I don't have to hide this. Maybe I'm not alone. Maybe this doesn't make me unworthy of love. And slowly, we begin reclaiming the parts of ourselves we've pushed away. This is why removing shame is such an important part of reconnecting with ourselves. So far in the embodied intimacy framework, we've explored embodiment, why we disconnect, nervous system regulation, emotional safety, attachment, and trauma. Each of these helps us understand who we became, who we are. Shame asks us to look at something slightly different. What parts of myself have I learned not to accept? Before we can confidently ask, what do I truly want? We may first need to create enough safety within ourselves to hear the answer without immediately judging it. And that's where we're heading. As we continue through this framework, we'll begin moving from understanding why we respond the way we do toward developing a more compassionate relationship with ourselves. Because intimacy isn't only about allowing another person to see us. It begins with your willingness to see yourself, your emotions, your needs, your body, your desires, and your history. Even the parts you've been taught to hide, not without boundaries, not without accountability, but without believing that those parts automatically make you unworthy of connection, pleasure, or love. So here's something I invite you to think about this week. What part of yourself have you been judging that might need curiosity instead? You don't have to change it. You don't have to share it with anyone. Just notice it. And perhaps ask yourself, where did I learn to feel ashamed of this? And do I still want to carry that belief? I'm Chris Hughes, and I'm a sex and relationship coach. I help individuals and couples better understand themselves, their relationships, and their desires so they can create deeper connection and more fulfilling intimacy. If something we've talked about today feels familiar and you'd like a safe, judgment-free space to explore it, I invite you to schedule a free 20-minute discovery call through my website, chrishughescoaching.com. And if you'd like to continue exploring the Embodied Intimacy Framework with me, subscribe to the channel and join me for the next video. Thanks for spending this time with me.